Hey guys, so today I just thought I'd make a quick video about how I managed to improve my GAMSAT Science score by about 30 points and how I ended up getting my overall score above 72. In this video I plan to go through just some of the tips and tricks I learned along the way that helped me improve my score and some of the resources I used. So I've set the GAMSAT 3 times now, and the first time I set it was in 2016. I ended up doing quite poorly. You see that my overall score was 53 and I scored a 52 in science. So that would have put me at about the 20th percentile there. However, I did sit GAMSAT again earlier this year in 2020 and I managed to score 81 in section 3. So that's about a 30-point difference, and that put me in the 99th percentile for science. So I think some of the biggest mistakes people make when they first hit GAMSAT is that they're super confident. And I know this was a mistake for me. I just assumed that because I had a relatively high GPA, it would just mean that I'd do all right at GAMSAT. And I think that this really isn't the case. I mean, GAMSAT's one of those exams that requires a lot of, conceptual thinking. It's not just about rote learning for an exam and doing it. You have to really understand the content. I think this is quite an issue for people that first start off with GAMSAT. It's also important to know that when you study for the GAMSAT, it's not like any other exam you've ever sat before. You can't study the exact same way. I know personally, before I sat my first GAMSAT, I spent a month studying physics, chemistry, and all my undergraduate courses. I just went through the lecture notes and just tried to learn my lecture notes and learned different equations, like the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, this sort of thing. And as you can see, it didn't pan out too well for me. So the biggest things that I changed between my first GAMSAT sitting and my third GAMSAT sitting was that I started to prioritize practice questions. Every single day, I'll do about 30 to 40 practice questions, either from the ACER test books or the 2014 edition of Des O'Neill. And I'll just go through these questions, try and work it out without any help, no calculator. I tried to do everything without a calculator. And after that, I would mark it to see how it went. I think this is super important to get used to these GAMSAT style questions and how to go about answering them, because it's not just rote learned content, it's problem solving. This is what GAMSAT's about. It's testing how well you can problem solve. So after doing these practice questions every day, I'd go through the questions that I got wrong, and I would learn the theory and the concepts behind that question itself. So, for example, if I got a physics question on Archimedes' principle and I got that wrong, I would learn the inside and out of Archimedes' principle and then understand how that applies to different questions. I think it's super important to have a dedicated book as well of questions you got wrong. That way you can just re-look at it from time to time and just refresh your memory about different concepts and different theories that you need to know for GAMSAT. On top of this, I think it's really important to retest yourself. I know personally that I was retesting every maybe 8 weeks. And even if I did remember the question or the answer from that exact same test, I would still mark it wrong if I didn't understand why the answer was correct. And so that allowed me to determine whether or not I was actually understanding some of these questions and whether I had the knowledge to figure out these questions. I think the last thing that is incredibly important for GAMSAT is, well, at least when you're prepping for GAMSAT, is to learn to ask why. I think a key trap with GAMSAT is that people get stuck on this surface level of understanding. They understand why an equation connects to a particular concept, but they don't understand why it is, or why that equation links. So just to demonstrate this process of asking why, we got Raoult's law here, and I think this is one of the questions in the ACER practice questions booklets. So essentially, if you understand Raoult's law, you'll know that vapor pressure typically decreases when we add a solute to a pure solvent. So the solution will have a reduced vapor pressure when compared to the solvent alone. So I think one of the important things here is just asking why that happens. Now, we understand that it does happen, but why does it happen? So you do a little bit of research and you come to the understanding that vapor pressure decreases because when you add a solute, there will be a reduced chance of that pure solvent being on the top of the surface. So essentially decreasing the chance that it will be able to go from the liquid phase to the gas phase, and thus a decrease in the vapor pressure. So I guess one step further to this understanding is essentially knowing the implications of a reduced vapor pressure. And that being that a decrease in vapor pressure will result in an increase in boiling point. And then from there, you can sort of ask why there's an increase in boiling point. And it's just this never-ending cycle of asking why. And it increases your understanding of that topic more and more. And I think this is one of the most important factors for doing well in the science section of GAMSAT. So some of the resources I used to improve my GAMSAT science score was first and foremost the ASO practice questions. I think I purchased both the practice questions and the 3 practice tests, and I spaced the sitting of these practice questions about a month apart. So that would allow me to determine whether or not my science score was actually improving. Another thing I did was the 2014 edition of Des O'Neill. There are some copies of this on eBay, and if you can get your hands on it, it's really, really worth your while. I think that the Des O'Neill questions are the closest thing you can get to ASA in terms of format and that GAMSAT style question. Again, I did all these questions multiple times just to, determine whether or not I was actually learning these concepts or these theories and whether or not I could put it into practice. Now, coming from an exercise science background, I didn't have the greatest understanding of organic chemistry or general chemistry. So I read the As a Second Language books by David Klein. You can get them at the library fairly easy, and they are fantastic. After reading the organic chemistry topic as a second language by David Klein, I was very, very comfortable with any organic chemistry questions that appeared in GAMSAT. So yeah, it is a must read if you don't understand organic chem. And for physics, I looked at both Khan Academy and Freelance Teach. I can highly recommend Freelance Teach. He has a few YouTube videos, he's got plenty of YouTube videos, but he gives the PDF sources as well, and I find he just explains things really, really well. So just before I end the video, I just want to say that with this channel, I plan to be uploading quite regularly GAMSAT orientated content, and just some of the things that I learned about GAMSAT Science, how to do various questions, and just some of the content that I learned when prepping for GAMSAT. So if that's something that would interest you, please subscribe to the channel. Cheers, guys.